Welcome to the Total Soccer Show presented by Netflix. This is World Cup Daily. Paraguay gave it a good try, but now they must say goodbye as Kylian Mbappe was the guy who survived this physical time. And Canada didn't make their quarterfinal goal as they were rocked by some Moroccan roll. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, hi Taylor Rockwell. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. That was lovely. I like Moroccan roll. I am here in your state. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm in North Carolina. It feels sort of icky. I feel like my skin is instantly itchy, but otherwise, good times. Good times.
Good. When you said I'm here in your state, I thought you meant my state of being hungover right now, which is what I am after the 4th of July. Thank you very much, Taylor.
It's funny how like being just continuously sleep deprived sort of has the same feeling as being hungover in certain ways, because I woke up at 6:30 in the morning with my 5-year-old's face pressed against mine asking me if it was time to go swimming in the ocean yet. So we did that, but now here I am to talk to you all, already sunburned and through like one bloodshot eye.
Very good. Love to hear it. Graham Ruthven, how are you?
I'm good. What is it about children having to wake you up a centimetre away from your face? Because Sophie woke me up this morning saying, wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. And I'd never heard that before.
Well, hang on. Were you presented with eggs and bakey, though?
No, I think it was on me to make the eggs and bakey. So,
that's worse.
Yeah. That is worse. That is worse.
Yeah.
But, Ryan Bailey, only 14 matches left of this World Cup. We're through 90 games now in 3 weeks, which is roughly a quarter of an entire Premier League season we've got through in that period of time. It's no wonder I'm seeing defensive low blocks in my sleep, particularly after the Paraguay game.
Graham just like sleep fighting pillows after the Paraguay game, just getting prepared.
That's right.
Oh, bless. Yeah, you're seeing violence and then you wake up to demands to make breakfasts. What a life you lead, Graham Ruthven. What a life you lead. Excellent stuff. All right, we've got a couple of games to talk about, of course, in this episode. Before we get there, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. That is the URL you go to if you'd like to support us. And if you do so, you can get bonus episodes, bonus video, and access to our Discord server. All of the cool kids in the universe are hanging out in there. Go say hi to them. We love you. You're awesome. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. All right, let's get to it, shall we? Why don't we start off with the French win over Paraguay, 1-0 win for France. Kylian Mbappe, the aforementioned, settling this one from the spot. A penalty spot that had been tampered with, no less. The poophousery from Paraguay was impressive. It was off the charts, I would say, in this game. Graham, they had 24% possession, did Paraguay. They would have tried to have less if it meant they could spend more time kicking France, I think. But that's how the balance of play worked out in this one. What did you make of this game, Graham?
Yeah, this was an absolute battle of a game, which is what Paraguay wanted it to be, right? They had no interest in actually playing any soccer. They wanted to be in their low block, defend the numbers, and most importantly, stop and disrupt the match whatever way they could. They wanted to get under the skin of the French players, particularly their attacking players. And I give France, and particularly Kylian Mbappe, a lot of credit for not reacting. It would have been very easy to get drawn into Paraguay's nonsense as it was towards the end of the game. After they went a goal down, it was like they forgot they actually had to score a goal to stay in this competition. It was just kick France for revenge.
It wasn't the plan, Graham. It wasn't the plan.
No, and Mbappe, instead of getting drawn in, he just kind of laughed at Galarza right at the end, which was the correct reaction, because he in particular was an absolute embarrassment in this game. How he didn't get booked was an absolute mystery. Fouling and kicking people left and right. At one point, he just struck Mbappe in the chest off the ball as he was running through. He did similar to Jules Koundé quite late in the game, and the referee in this game let him and Paraguay away with everything, and that contributed to a game that by the end was very difficult to watch. It was one of the worst refereeing performances I've seen for a while. And look, I enjoy the dark arts as the next person, as much as the next person, and they were always going to, try and disrupt the game and be physical against France, and I can understand to an extent why they played that way. But this felt like a step too far, and the referee did nothing. That's when the onus is on the referee to get the game under control, and he lost complete control. How Paraguay didn't get a booking until the very dying moments of this game was just a joke. So yes, I frankly don't feel any sadness in seeing Paraguay go home after this.
Graham, I want to talk about the physicality and the lack of cards. I want to ask you first, bigger villain of the World Cup so far, Canobio or your man Galarza?
Oh, that is the battle of the World Cup. Forget Messi versus Mbappe.
Literally.
It's Galarza versus Canobio. Oh, that's very, very difficult. I felt like it was easier to laugh at Canobio. I think by the end, Galarza was really just peeing me off. And
there's a line. There is a line. We talked about this a little bit in the Slack that like I think because of CONCACAF, I have an appreciation for like, oh, they're doing it well. Like, oh, like they are like just being annoying enough that they're going to keep getting away with it, but like not outright assaulting people. It's just like kicking the ball away, slaps the ball away, little bits of the dark arts I will appreciate. And then I think like around when I texted you, like, what's the line, Graham? Was like somebody like booting somebody in the shin and getting away with it. And I was like, oh, that's the line right there. And to extend my parenting analogies further, this was like a game in which there's like a sort of like a parent like scrolling their phone, like sitting on the beach, and they look up and one child is like sitting on the other, like holding their head in the water. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's fine. They're playing. They're having a good time. And it's like one of them is playing. One of them seems to be suffering a little bit. And that seems to be the way the official refereed this one. We had Dr. Joe. I think this is the first time I've heard this said out loud. That they asked him, like, what does the referee need to do to get control of this game? And his answer was like, I don't think he led with the thesis of like, I don't know, nothing. It seems like nothing is happening. His answer was, the rule changes for this tournament have emphasized gameplay instead of whistles. So the idea, I guess, is that if that's what the game is calling for, if that's how both teams are playing, then you let it go and they're okay with it being physical. And that's where I go back to my beach analogy of like, one team seemed to be really okay with it being physical. One team were like trying to pass the ball. And I think by the end, we're happy to engage in a little bit of a street fight. I thought Mbappe acquitted himself well. And I cannot believe that like I went into this game with like Paraguay, the plucky underdog.
Yeah,
can they hold on
same.
again? Can they knock out another European contender? And by the end, I was like, I'm ready for them to be done. Yay, France. I can't believe I was like cheering the maximum overdog.
Yeah.
But here I am.
I had exactly the same sentiment, Taylor, where I was like cheering Mbappe laughing in Galarza's face, which I was totally saying. Like, I like the reaction from him. Elise did exactly the same, and that's where I give France so much credit for reacting the way that they did, because it was just been so easy for them. I mean, they wanted France to get drawn in, and then they're down to 10 men, and they get a red card, and it'd been so easy for France to do that. But yeah, there was a line that Paraguay crossed. Like, there was one foul in particular that Galarza had on Elise about 30 yards out from goal, where he just scythes through the back of Michael Elise, and that was his fourth foul of the game, and that was, on its own, that was a yellow card. What the referee was playing at, I have no idea. There was another one where, I think it might have been Velasquez, or maybe it was Cáceres, where Mike Maignan has the ball, and he's about to throw the ball out, and France are going to come forward on a counter-attack. And whoever the Paraguayan player was, I think it was Cáceres now that I think about it, just falls on top of Mike Maignan, and then when Mike Maignan gets up, Cáceres is feigning injury on the ground, trying to get. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's like I think the thing that I really ended up not enjoying about this game, aside from like the physicality itself, just making it an ugly game. It's that it also felt like it wasn't regulated, it wasn't controlled, it wasn't effectively like policed in a way that you want these games to be. And that doesn't mean I want like cards everywhere and everybody's like on this fine line. But like we talked about this with the Ecuador-Mexico game, where Ecuador were clearly doing the same thing as Paraguay. They were fouling, they were trying to disrupt, they were trying to be physical. And the referee at one point gave everybody that marching order of like, next one is a card. Like, I don't care who it is, next one is a card. And then it's Quiñones who clears out a player, and he kind of recognizes like, like you guys haven't been doing this whole game. It's been Ecuador fouling. I can't give the first card to you. And it absolutely should have been a yellow card. It's like a textbook, just clearing him out away from the ball. But he doesn't give it, the ref, because he knows that's going to make everything boil over. It's going to create this imbalance that I can't really adjust from. And I think with officiating, you're always trying to keep things even-keeled, even if they're really tense, even if they're starting to boil over, even if the match is getting intense. You're still trying to make sure that you have ultimately like a container on it, a shield. And so in this game, that the first yellow card goes to Kone and France does the opposite. And it sends this message of like, okay, now I don't know what a yellow card is. And now it seems like if we do anything, we get a yellow card. And if they kick us, maybe we also still get a yellow card. And once you have that lack of control, that lack of consistency, I think that's where the game can start to kind of feel disjointed and spiral. And I think that's how this played out, even if it was intense and dramatic at the end.
Yeah. Well, Ilgiz Tandashev, the Uzbek referee in charge of this one, he did dish out the law, of course, to France, giving them 3 yellow cards for their 11 fouls. None at all, of course.
He really enjoyed awarding the penalty, though. He knew that was a dramatic moment and went with like, they're like what's contact is penalty. Like he really enjoyed calling out the penalty on that one.
Yeah, there was good on the. I was watching the British broadcast, and the commentator was like, "We know exactly what he's going to say. He's going to go to the VAR. We know exactly what he's going to say right now." It was very much a foregone conclusion that this would be a penalty as well. L'Equipe, by the way, the French newspaper, gave the referee a 1 out of 10 rating. Can you believe that?
That's high for L'Equipe.
I know. It's one of their best ratings they've ever given. The referee of the Paraguay-France match received the worst possible rating in our newspaper. He completely botched this game, issuing no cards to the Paraguay players. Yeah, so that's been quite the storyline of this game. Graham, besides the physicality of this game, were we able to learn much about France from this one? Obviously, they weren't able to create too much because the Paraguay were aggressive and they did defend in numbers, I suppose. But what can we actually extract from this game from a French perspective?
I mean, Paraguay, they restricted France in the way that we haven't seen at this tournament so far. It was the first time I've really questioned France and whether they would have the solutions to find a way through. Because in the first half, they were a bit predictable. Yes, Paraguay made it difficult for them in their back five and they defended their penalty box well. And obviously, as we've detailed at length, they were disrupting the game. But I felt like France could have taken more risks because they were just endlessly recycling possession around the edge of the box. I thought they needed to be a little bit more varied. Maybe even put a cross into the box every so often, even if only to create a bit of chaos and maybe a clearance drops to someone and you get an opportunity that way. There wasn't a whole lot of off-the-ball movement. The fullbacks weren't willing to overlap. And we should mention the conditions for this game. I believe we're over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so this was the most challenging we've seen at this tournament so far. And I think we have to factor that into why France maybe looked so lethargic. I also thought Deschamps made a mistake by going for Barcola in his starting lineup over Doué. When this was, and I swear this isn't a hindsight thing, I had this in my notes before he comes on and wins the penalty. This was always going to be more of a Desiree Doué game because Barcola is someone who gives you a bit more verticality. He needs space ahead of him to burst into, and there was just no space for him to do that. Whereas Doué, as we saw with the penalty, is a dribbler. He is the sort of player who can break open a low block. So I give Deschamps some credit for correcting the mistake. Doué comes on and he cracks the game open, and I suppose that shows the depth and the variety of options that France have, that even when a game like this is not in their favour and things aren't going well and they're against an opponent like Paraguay, they're still able to find a way through. But yeah, it was a little bit of a back to earth moment for France. This was their least convincing performance so far.
It was, and I agree with that. I feel like this is a things can be two things, because I think everything Graham said is true. Simultaneously, if your opponent wants to make it a street fight and you are trying to I don't know, if they want to make it we're doing food truck on the go food and you're trying to do fine dining and you're like, all right, let's do food trucks and I'll beat you there. No disrespect to food trucks. But it felt like France were like, okay, you want to play that game? We'll play that game too. And then we'll beat you at that game. And they did. They used that physicality against them, ultimately getting that penalty. And it felt like then they didn't back down from challenges. They got stuck in themselves. They kind of did some trash talking and getting in people's faces. I like that they had that little bit of grit to them. But then I also like that they did, in some ways, figure Paraguay out. And I think Graham is right. I don't think that, Barcola, for me it is in hindsight, didn't make as much sense as Doué, and Doué has that immediate impact. But I also liked other moments from Deschamps, because it felt like they tried to be very positionally fluid to start this game. And I was noticing, you have Mbappe between the center backs. Now you have Rabiot as the furthest forward attacker all of a sudden. You have Barcola wide. Oh, no, now Barcola is central, and Digne is wide. Oh, wait, now Digne is also central, and Mbappe's wide. They were trying to move, and they were trying to rotate. It just wasn't really working, and they weren't causing Paraguay any problems. And so, at a certain point, they start resorting to, to Graham's point, no crosses, but, pot shots. And there's a moment that I thought was really interesting in the 49th minute. There's a long sustained spell of possession. And it ends with passing back and forth laterally across the goal, and it gets to Rabiot. Rabiot takes a touch and has a go, and he skies his chance. And I assumed that was going to be that cannot have been what was supposed to happen there. And it cuts to Deschamps, and he is clearly angry. He is not angry that the shot was taken. He is clearly miming, get your hips over it. He's mad that the attempt is just skied. And I think that was meant to be a sign of let's roll the dice, let's just start trying stuff, let's make things happen. And then he was annoyed by the lack of execution there, and then I think they make some changes. I don't think it's a tactical masterclass by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that they won a knockdown, drag-em-out fight, and I think they still had moments when they played their game along the way. So it was a closer game for France, but I also gain more respect and appreciation for this French team.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Taylor. I think my biggest takeaway is discipline as well, right? They, as you mentioned there, they had the discipline to play this kind of game and not get drawn in. That's the key takeaway here, that they just showed a level of professionalism and a lack of hot-headedness that other teams might have been drawn into. So I think that they deserve a lot of respect for that, for sure.
They do. And I don't think Paraguay do, personally. Like, I think, as I said, there's a line. And I think that this comes after Cabo Verde, like, play the game they played against Argentina, where that game ends with, like, you can see the respect on the Argentine faces. You can see them being applauded off the Cabo Verde players by, like, Argentinian fans. Like, there is a look, you fouled us at times, you went through us, it got physical, but you were playing your game, you made us work for this, like, respect, versus, like, I was like, there's no chance we're going to see the kind of, like, noble head nodding of, like, thank you for giving us a game from France. I was like, I think I'm putting my notes, like, I bet we're going to see a lot of laughing from France at the end of the game, and we sure did, and a lot of it was directed at Paraguayan players.
Yeah. Kylian Mbappe couldn't contain himself towards the end stages of this game.
He could not.
It was quite amusing. Very good indeed. France will march on, of course. They face Morocco in the next round in Boston. That will be on Thursday. Very interesting one indeed. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a bit more about this. We'll talk about Morocco's win over Canada and much more. Join us then.
The World Cup is finally here, Ryan, and I've been obsessed with a brand new way to experience it. FIFA World Cup Launch Edition on Netflix.
Wait, Taylor, on Netflix? Like, between episodes of my favorite bacon shows?
Exactly. It's completely reimagined from mobile to TV play, and honestly, it's fast, incredibly fluid, and just pure tactical fun.
Wait, walk me through the mechanics here. How does it actually work?
It is brilliant. Your TV is the stadium, and your phone becomes the controller. You just scan the QR code on your screen, and you're instantly swiping to pass and shoot.
So, a low barrier to entry, but high replay value. Can you play as any country?
All 48 teams, Ryan, in all 16 real-world stadiums, and best of all, it's included in your Netflix membership with 0 extra costs. Check the Games tab on your TV and start playing now.
FIFA World Cup Launch Edition now, only on Netflix.
This is Total Soccer Show presented by Netflix. Welcome back, everybody. Let's talk about Morocco's 3-0 win over Canada. The co-hosts eliminated by the next World Cup co-hosts. Ooh, symmetry. Became a comfortable win for Morocco in this one after an edgy first half. Is that the right word for it? I'm not sure. Jesse Marsh Taylor said, we were the better team in his post-match in this one. I mean, that's a strong one after you've lost 3-0, I would say. But maybe he had a point about the first half at least.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those where, like, I can understand what he's trying to say. He's just got to understand how that sounds when you lose 3-0. But I think this was a fascinating game, even if it got really dull by the end. But it was fascinating because I think Canada, like, caused genuine problems to Morocco. I think similar to what Paraguay were doing to France. Like, I think this was a game that Morocco haven't really had to play yet, maybe for, like, a few stretches against Brazil. But Canada set out in their 4-2-2, 2-2-2-2-2-2, and I think crowded the numbers, but pressed high. And I don't think Morocco were expecting that. I'm not sure why, or I don't think that they were set up to handle it. And in possession, they would spread their 2 center backs really far wide. They would keep the 2 central midfielders, like, pretty tight together. They'd have their fullbacks pushed up, but not very much. So it was sort of this, like, weird, hollow, like, 2 on each outside, 2 in the middle. But that meant any sort of, like, bounce pass into a midfielder was having to be played wide. Canada could gamble and try to kind of step to that, and oftentimes would either disrupt or intercept. And I think Morocco, like, kind of recognized, oh, this is not going our way. They are causing us problems, and we could be down right now. And then we would have to find a way to beat them and break them and kind of find a way through that press. And so I think they stopped trying to possess the ball and were just content to sort of make it a physical back and forth where they would go long, and then I think they lose Saibari, and I think that even limits them even further. And so then they make adjustments in the second half. But I felt like Canada really, like, sent a warning shot across their bow, and then they got very nervous, Morocco, and didn't do much else for a large chunk of this game.
Yeah, I mean, the final scoreline was harsh on Canada, and they'll have a lot of regret about the way this match got away from them, because at half-time, I did think they'd been the better team at 45 minutes in. They made a really strong start. They were right on top of Morocco early on. They were doing a really good job of limiting Morocco, especially down the right side where they were getting bodies over Hakimi quickly. And even when Morocco did get in behind, Crepeau was really proactive in coming off his line to cover that space. So the press was working really well. And Canada were causing some problems in the attack as well. I mean, 30 minutes in, there had been 4 shots in the game, all of them Canadian shots, plus 11 touches in the box compared to Morocco's 0 at that point. They had that Tani chance in the opening 10 minutes when Bono makes the one-on-one save. That'll be playing in Canada's minds and Jesse Marsh's mind, because it's a totally different game if that goes in. And then we saw what happened when Morocco were able to get they were the ones that got the go-ahead goal in the second half, and then the game state starts to favour them, and they can pick off Canada on the break. And I think it was evidence of how that 2022 identity and game playing style that Morocco had is still there, right? A lot has been made, and I've done maybe more than anyone to sort of highlight how Morocco have evolved over the last 3.5 years, and I think they're definitely a more rounded team and probably a better team than they were in 2022. But here, the way that they scored the second and third goal, that's straight out the 2022 playbook, where they're defending deep, their line of confrontation is deep, and then they pick off an opponent on the break. And I agree, Taylor, on the Saibari to Rahimi. Like, Saibari is a better player, and he's just had a move to Bayern Munich, so we're going to see more of him in the seasons to come. Rahimi is more of a get in behind sort of quick transition forward, and so in a weird way, for the way the game state changed in the second half, having Rahimi on actually favoured Morocco, and I guess Canada were a little bit unfortunate that way. But yeah, I think Canada have still had a good World Cup. They'll look forward, look back at a run to the round of 16 as a positive, as a step forward for this programme. We should also mention that, like, 3 of their best players at this tournament were, I mean, Alphonso Davies, he's just injured. Like, we got proof of that in this game where he isn't involved at all. That was a whole drama with it in this tournament. Ismail Kone gets that bad leg injury in the second game, and then Bombito missed the first game as well and then comes into the team. So for a team that was hindered in the way that they were, Canada still gave a good account of themselves, even if this scoreline was a little bit harsh on them.
Yeah, it's the even if, and it's the, like, gave a good account of themselves that I think probably feels like not quite like a missed opportunity. But I was saying this last night to the people I was watching this game with, like, that this feels very much like U.S. performances of tournaments past, where you can play your game, you can have moments where you execute, and it feels like, oh, that could, like, if we'd scored that goal, if this hadn't happened, if this had gone that way, we might have won. But ultimately, like, you can recognize that there is a talent disparity, and you just need to be able to compete in those individual positions in those individual ways. And those 2 players you mentioned, Graham, like, those are huge losses. And we saw it when Alphonso Davies does have that brief cameo, his brief, like, 30 minutes in this tournament, that he just makes that attack better. He draws in defenders because they're more aware of him, but he's also able to, like, thread the needle and split defenders and play people into space or play people into pockets of space that maybe they themselves didn't even know they were in. And to not have him in this, it requires you to try to be, I think, fast first. That seemed to be the approach, was press high, press often, run them down. And then once you're 1-0 down, we're going to go with, like, put Kyle Larin in, let him cause some problems up top, see if we can kind of capitalize on those problems. But ultimately, you don't have the difference makers you need, partially due to injury, partially due to, like, the program is developing and maybe not where it intends to be by the time the next World Cup rolls around. And by contrast, like, even if this was a game in which Morocco were okay with, like, not playing the game that we've seen them play at times in this tournament, even if they were okay with not possessing the ball and playing beautiful football, you could still see a little bit of the talent disparity. And I think set-piece delivery is a prime example of that. The first goal is just, it is master set-piece theater. It's a drawn-up set piece. It's shaping like you're going to play this free kick, like, back across goal to the back post, and you'll have somebody there headed across, and they do kind of crowd numbers over there to give the illusion it's going to the back post. And then it's just a low cutback, and it's really, really well finished by Unahi. I believe his other goal is a very similar finish from a very similar cutback, albeit not from a set piece. But I thought Morocco took those well, and then by contrast, I didn't think Eustáquio had the best service in this game. I didn't feel like Canada were able to really capitalize on those or have sort of well-designed set pieces that could cause Morocco problems. And so I have a lot of sympathy for Canada, because I'm sure they were not ready for their tournament to end, Canadian fans. I'm sure that they maybe thought, this is a Morocco team that we can spring some surprises on. Maybe they'll be overly confident. Maybe they'll be too open. And I think they were. And I think if 1 or 2 of those opportunities gets put in the back of the net, it's obviously just a very different game we're talking about, but it goes the way it goes.
Do we think Jesse Marsh is staying? It sounds like he is, right? I mean, he's got a contract for another 4 years, but we all know that those things aren't often oftentimes aren't worth the paper they're written on. But the way that he spoke after this game, where he gave the quote of, "I'd rather be us than them," which has been pounced on by, I mean, it's classic Jesse Marsh, and I understand why
He
it's
said,
quite
I'd rather be
cringe.
US than
That's right, yeah. Did you see the quote where he's like, I don't even care about the US, talking about the US again in Time magazine. But
I think asked about the U.S., I think, or asked about, like, it. Yeah, it's another one where, like, you remove the question and it sounds really bad. I think he's responding to a question. But I don't even know, dude, because then he has the moment where they cut to him and he's just like look. I assume he's looking at a screen. But did you all see that when they cut to him in the game and he's just like
head down, yeah, Charlie Brown.
Just like looks sad, and it's like, that's not a great look, man. Like, that's the second time we've cut to you on the bench in this tournament, and you've looked like you're just like not a care in the world, just like, I don't know, doing my own thing. I can't tell if it's like a thing that's being done to him or if he is an active participant in having quotes and moments that I think are hilarious without context.
But I do think we should appreciate the Canadian run here. Historic run for them as it was. I think also that sort of Marsh moment, you are Canadian heroes, after the previous game, after the South Africa win. That feels like the kind of moment that will live long in the Canadian soccer memory as well. So they've made their mark here for sure.
And I said that after the game, like, it's cringe and Jesse Marsh is cringe, but they've earned that moment, and Jesse Marsh has earned that moment, and this team clearly has like huge buy-in to what he's doing, and obviously it's not fully on Jesse Marsh. Like, this program was clearly heading in the right direction before he arrived. But Canada not so long ago were a joke. Like, their national team, their men's national team was an absolute joke, and now they are a team that's winning games at the World Cup, getting out of the group stage and giving semi-finalists, as Morocco were in the previous World Cup, a run for their money, as they did for a lot of this game. So huge respect for what they've achieved, and I think there should be real optimism that Canada can build on top of this heading into future tournaments.
Definitely so. By the way, refereeing watching this one, 8 yellow cards in this game. Far fewer in the other game. Michael Oliver, Premier League referee. Maybe he was assigned the wrong game on Saturday. That's what we can say about that one. But yeah, we are sorry to see Canada leave this tournament, of course. But the quarterfinal, as noted, France will play Morocco in Boston on Thursday. That feels like a good matchup, by the way, doesn't it? I'm quite intrigued to see how both teams
on and off the field. That's an interesting one. Paris is going to be interesting on the day of that game.
Yes, indeed.
Graham, do you have thoughts on how that plays out based on what we've seen? Because I would love for it to be a game in which it's open and both sides are attacking, and we know that Morocco can do that. They did it against the Dutch, but that's the Dutch who are playing in a 5-4-1 and being very defensive, as we talked about. Like, France, I don't think this French team is capable of playing that way. I don't think they should ever attempt it. So I worry that we're basically going to see, like, after this game against Canada, Morocco won with some physicality without kind of like attacking flair. I hope that we see attacking flair and like creative possession and movement. I worry we're going to see a physical kind of like, we're going to try to disrupt them, knock them around. I think that's how you have to play against this France team, but I'm not sure that will be the spectacle I'm hoping it will be if that's the way they choose to go.
Yeah, I mean, given everything we've seen from Morocco at this tournament, we've spoken about the way that they're able to adapt to circumstances, right? And that's what I think they did in this Canada game, is they adapted in the second half. They recognised that the 2022 playbook was the way to win this match. I think we'll see a game that ebbs and flows between the two teams. I don't think there will be a consistent pattern. I definitely don't expect the game to be in a single game state for the full 90 minutes, where it's France trying to break down the Moroccan low block. We may see that for periods, but I just think Morocco have too much quality in central midfield. I mean, Boadi might be the best. He might be the best midfielder out of the two teams, like all-round midfielder, ability to control possession, ability on both sides of the ball. And so I think Morocco would be betraying that evolution that they've had since the last World Cup if they went fully in that direction, and I don't expect they will. So I think this could be one of the most intriguing games of the entire competition so far.
It only seems fair, though, that if Morocco are going to embrace that 2022 identity, we get like the Stone Cold Steve Austin glass breaking audio in the middle of a game, and then Walid Regragui comes out like we thought he was dead, but he's back.
Well,
and he just
doing the
comes
Vince
out
McMahon walking down the ramp.
Yes, exactly. And all of instructions are like, foul him, more time wasting, keep the ball out of bounds, put another ball back on the field. Like, it's anything you can do. He's going to find a way, and I'm excited to have him back, if only in spirit.
Marvellous stuff. All right, we take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to look ahead to some of the games coming up, including but not limited to France taking on Norway and England against Mexico. Join us then. Total Soccer Show presented by Netflix. Welcome back, everybody. Let's look ahead to some of Sunday's games, which may be taking place as you listen to this, dear listener. We start off, Graham, with France taking on Brazil, taking on Norway. France are already done. Brazil taking on Norway at 4 p.m. Eastern. And then England, Mexico. This feels like a very good day of World Cup soccer we've got lined up here.
These are two blockbuster games. I think all four teams involved in those two games have a realistic chance of making it through to the quarterfinals. I have got Norway to beat Brazil on my predictions that I've done for these games, which would be, and then I've got England to beat Mexico. Yeah. But it would not surprise me if Mexico were to win that game. I mean, are you nervous for that one, Ryan? It seems like you maybe are.
Very much so. I mean, I'm acutely aware that England, pound for pound, are a better team than Mexico, but there seems to be an awful lot of environmental factors going into this one, as we're all aware. There's been like this time change thing. There's going to be some very humid and stormy weather, it seems, and obviously it's 2,500 meters above sea level. There's been a whole thing about there was some science that was spread around when you want to play at altitude, you either get there 10 days before the game or immediately before, and there is a requirement for an open training session to happen in Mexico City, so they've had to get there a day and a half, 2 days before. So not ideal setup for England as well. But Graham, one of my favourite things about this game in the build-up was Liam Gallagher's tweet. I don't know if you saw this.
I saw that as well.
So Liam Gallagher said, every time I've been to Mexico, everyone's been lovely. I don't get all this bad attitude nonsense. It's going to be fine. And the reply said, I think it's altitude, not attitude. And he's like, oh yeah, been scratching my head about that one.
If that's a bet,
and this is your God, Ryan. This is your God.
That's
my
guy.
That on record.
That's my guy. That's it. Yep.
Oh, that's good.
Legend.
That's good. I mean, there's been so much chat about the altitudes from the British press heading into this game, and I think it could be a factor, and I think the Azteca is a factor for sort of intangible reasons that we've outlined already. Here's my counter argument, Ryan. It's a player called Harry Kane. Heard of him? He's quite good. Got you through the last game to this point. Mm-hmm. I think there is a point at which just having better players is probably going to give England the advantage, and so that's why I think they're much better players. You know, like Mexico are going to have to play their greatest ever game at a World Cup to get the better of England, even with it being at Azteca, even with the altitude, and so that's going to be as impressive as they have been at this World Cup. I think that's going to be a stretch too far for them.
Maybe so. Yeah.
I mean, England have faced like hostile road games. Yes, like. I think there is this idea, at least for me, that like CONCACAF, like what the U.S. deals with on the road, is unlike anything another nation has to deal with in qualifying. Except I think Common Bowl countries, like when they go on the road, like you're playing at elevation when you're playing certain teams, you're dealing with like hostile crowds and hotel disruptions and anything that could be thrown in your way to just throw you off your game. I am assuming that England experienced that in their own World Cup qualifying whenever they go on the road to certain nations. Is it fair to say it's that intense?
Not to this extent.
Does it never really? Okay.
Yeah, not to this level, I don't think. Yeah.
Because like, if that's the case, like, everything I've ever heard, especially from American players, is that like it is truly disruptive. That it is the phone ringing off the hook in your hotel because calls are being let through, but then it's like, quote unquote, helpful bellboys coming in at like 2 a.m. to be like, oh, sir, your phone's unplugged. Let me plug that back in for you. And then leaving and closing the door. And like, what? And then the phone rings. Like it's the water being turned off. And then when the water turns back on, there's no hot water. Oh, sorry, sir, we're trying to fix that. Like there is every disruption you can imagine. And if you aren't ready for that, and if you aren't ready for that level of like gamesmanship hostility, not quite like overt hostility, I do wonder how big of an impact it has on an England team that I think have been pretty unified and have been pretty strong and have dealt with kind of setbacks already in this tournament. But it is going to be a look. And I will say, if it does end up being a win, it is also incredible optics because like some of the best U.S. pictures whenever the team get like the seldom opportunity in which they get a point at the Azteca, it's always like all of them shirtless post game with oxygen masks on, like desperately trying to get oxygen to their systems. So if nothing else, Ryan, if you get the win, that will be a very good look for your team. Like on the papers tomorrow, it will be them looking like they have been through some sort of Mad Max conflict.
Yeah, just on the shenanigans, which have already started days in advance of this game. I was watching the BBC News last night, and the reporter standing outside the England hotel and being like, the FA have gone to great lengths to keep their location in Mexico City a secret, and then there's like 1,000 Mexico fans behind him going, Mexico! You know, just like absolutely screaming their heads off. I'm not entirely sure that Harry Kane and company are going to get much sleep tonight, or last night.
I saw a really good like short on Instagram of like it's like every New Yorker dad on 4th of July, and it's them being talked to by the police as like active fireworks are going off, and they're just like, fireworks? What are you talking about? No one here's got fireworks. We don't know what you're talking about at all. Like no one's ever shot. I've never even heard a firework in my life, and like that's what I imagine that being is like. No, it's totally secure. There's nothing happening as it's just giant explosions around the hotel and brightly colored lights. Hooray! I can't wait to see how England handle that.
I know, it's going to be something. I always wonder if you're like just a regular tourist and you're staying in the JW Marriott in Mexico City last night, and you're like, why am I being kept up awake all night? What is happening? Is there something's going on in this hotel? I've always thought that, there's other people in these hotels as well.
Nice try, Jordan Henderson. We know what you look like.
Maybe the England team were staying near us in Los Angeles. That explains why there were fireworks every night.
That's right. A lot of celebration.
Oh,
but
man.
with that, sorry, go ahead, Taylor.
No, now I'm just sad. Like, I'm obviously sad not to be recording with you all. I'm even more sad not to be there to see because like there were just fireworks constantly, and then when Mexico would win, there'd be even more fireworks. 4th of July fireworks into a Mexico game, like that'd be something to behold.
So many beautiful explosions over Los Angeles, I'm quite sure. But yeah, with all this kind of stuff going on at the hotel, I saw that they are putting 70,000 Mexican flags in one on every seat, basically, in the stadium, including all the English seats as well. This is going to be the most home advantage that anyone seems to have ever had at the World Cup. It feels at this point. So that will be a big factor in that game as well.
I mean, I'm assuming, based on what we've seen and based on that level of intensity, that it's going to be Mexico coming out and going at England, trying to get shots off, trying to create chances, obviously, but also running England down and pressing them hard and making life difficult for them. I'm not even sure that necessarily suits the way Mexico have been at times in this tournament, but I think there's just no way you can't have that level of build-up, that level of atmosphere, and then it's like, all right, lads, now let's sit off and invite pressure. Like, I think there will have to be at least like 10 to 15 minutes of really going for it and trying to make life difficult for England. And I think it's important that England weather that storm, obviously, because I think not only do you then stay in the game and start off on a good foot, but I do think after that surge of adrenaline, it could flip the other way, and that could be England having more sustained possession, more like solid opportunities. But I think if you like let blood in the water, if you give them that scent, I think you are in for a long day, England. So I think those first 15 minutes and England's ability to kind of ride things out or even control the game will be incredibly important in how the rest of the game plays out.
Yeah, very much so. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on the fullback positions as well, seeing how that one went down against DR Congo. I have no idea who's going to play right back in this game. I might get called up at this point. Who knows? We will see. But I think Reece James might be fit for this one, but maybe for not the whole game. Maybe it's going to be Declan Rice back there again.
If only there was England can only dream of having a right back at a club like Real Madrid.
It would be nice to have that option.
Yeah.
But Graham, they do though.
What? They do?
Yeah. They got like a bunch in like
Jonathan Woodgate still playing, is he?
Just quietly shooting the ball into his own net over and over again. That's the ghost of Jonathan Woodgate.
Yeah. Very good.
Oh, and then Brazil, Norway also play.
Yeah, am I being overzealous in fancying Norway for that one?
Maybe.
Okay. How do you see that playing out, Graham? Like, what do you think is the most likely like narrative to the game, structure of the game?
I think it could be a case of which team scores more in transition. I don't trust Brazil to control a game at this World Cup. We've seen them control games out of possession, but I mean on the ball, I just don't trust that midfield. And then it becomes a case of, well, which attackers can harm the other team the most? And I just think Norway, they might have a bit more than Brazil, which feels, jarring to say, sacrilege to say of Brazil when you're talking about Norway. But I just look at how Antonio Nusa stepped up in the last game, how Oscar Bob is contributing, and with Brazil it kind of feels like Vinicius or bust. Cunha's been okay, to be fair. He's offered something, but it's faded the last couple of matches. And so I just think if it becomes a game, like almost like a basketball match, end to end, which I hope it is, because that would be hugely entertaining, I just think Norway are going to have the edge. Alternatively, Brazil make me look stupid and they win this one 3-1. But
I think I take a lot of, I don't know what the word would be, not inspiration, not heart, because I have no rooting loyalty for Brazil. But that win over Japan, I think, is important for them, obviously, in terms of going far in the tournament. I feel like I keep saying slightly obvious, like Fox pundit sort of things. I think what I mean to say is that I don't think we'd seen Brazil have to figure out a difficult opponent, and I don't think we'd seen them have to figure out a difficult opponent that caused them lots of different problems and had a comfort with different game states, and that they ended up like weathering that, finding a way through, making adjustments, and like justifying why you pay Carlo Ancelotti the way they do, but then also having moments where they are like intensely pressing, but in a coordinated way, but then also occasionally sitting off, and then also like occasionally trying to control the ball. That gives me more heart that this isn't just going to be Brazil 2 wide open, Norway scored 2, and that's kind of all she wrote. But I think that's a possibility. I think there is a good chance that Norway can kind of get something early and cause a lot of problems for that Brazilian defense, and then it's going to be Brazil having to fight back. But I think even if it's the opposite of that, I think it's still going to be an explosive game where I think Graham is right. It's going to be a lot of transition moments. And I'm going to assume I'm not the only one of us who has just been getting, like, for whatever reason, my algorithm is just like, you just want videos of Erling Haaland and Gabriel just, like, murdering each other in games, right? Like, it's just been compilations of the two of them just, like, fully, like, wrestling at times in games in the season past. So I feel like maybe we're also going to get a bit of that in this one as well.
My algorithm is just German fans going, have you seen this Waffle House? It's amazing. That's all I get at the moment.
It is neither a house nor waffles.
That's legacy confusing for this World Cup. Excellent stuff. All right, that is World Cup Daily over and out for today. We'll be back on the feed tomorrow to talk about the games we've just mentioned there and to look ahead, of course, to Portugal, Spain, and the US taking on Belgium. How you feeling, Taylor?
Oh, nervous. Already nervous. The Canada game did not help because it is sort of like, wait, no, I'm not ready for our tournament to be over. Please, no, we must find a way through, and we will find a way through. I have faith in Pochettino to navigate the nonsense Balogun red card. Mm-hmm. The man can throw a strike and have the entire team cheer like he is a North Korean leader. My goodness. Did you all see that clip of him throwing out the first pitch at the Mariners game?
Yeah, the Mariners game, yeah. So
the wide angle of the team behind him, and he does it, and they're all like, yes! And like doing like the you're out side. It's just like, this team is bought in, man. They like that guy a lot.
I think the context there is, was it Tommy Scoops or someone else at training the day before? Yeah. I think Matt Turner and a couple others had been coaching Pochettino. Because, if you're not American, I'll speak for myself, right, as a European. I know Pochettino's South American, but I presume the same applies. I don't know how to throw a ball. No. So I think Americans just have a natural advantage there. And so he was being coached. And the fact he didn't totally embarrass himself, I think, was his biggest victory of the World Cup so far.
Yeah. It's my favorite one of my favorite random moments from the Band of Brothers series is like it ends with like some of them playing like a baseball game, and it's just like in slow motion, man. It's very clear who is an American and who is a Brit pretending to be an American because of the way they try to throw a baseball. It comes across right away, and I enjoyed in that one Matt Turner being like, "What is this?" Because like Pochettino like kept like starting his throw here, and he's like, "No, like just the gestures of that coaching seminar alone were fascinating to break down and microanalyze."
Indeed. Very good stuff. Well, with the Band of Brothers reference, you two have been very easy company today. Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much indeed for your time.
You've been no Captain Sobel, my friend. You've been all Lieutenant Winners.
Oh, Sergeant Winters, what a legend. Graham Ruthven, thank you very much indeed.
It's a long time since I've seen Band of Brothers. I'm not sure I can keep up with these references.
Donnie Wahlberg.
Thank you, Donnie Wahlberg. Donnie Wahlberg, there we go.
David Schwimmer being, I don't know where the fences are. Aren't I a calamity? Very good. What a show. Rewatch it, listener. But not before you listen to all episodes of Total Soccer Show. Thank you very much for joining us on this one. We'll be back on the feed very shortly indeed. But for now, bye.